Greetings and salutations, everybody. Welcome back to episode 65 of the Snarp Fangle Podcast. I'm your host, Jake Metzger, along with someone who's, just waited with bated breath for Kanye to turn white. He's slapping all those high fives and hitting all those hiles. And ladies and gentlemen, without further ado, David Reed. How you doing, David?
Oh, I'm doing good.
Yeah? You are, right?
I'm staying white. I'm staying all right.
Nice, pretty. You're looking pretty fly for a white guy, if I say so myself. You know what I mean? So yeah, that's crazy, man. That's crazy. We'll dive into it, but that's some crazy stuff, man. Oh man. Yeah. Oh, for comments and concerns, hate mail, and general thoughts, and what your thoughts are on having a national holiday for Theodore Roosevelt's birthday, send them on over to snarpfanglepod@gmail.com. Or you can text Jake. All right, David. Well, here we are once again. I want to start off by thanking you for just coming in clutch last week while I died in my you know. So I really appreciate you. For those who are uninitiated, which is probably everyone who's listening, I injured my hip last week, and it didn't hit until half of the workday got over, and so my hip was killing me. It was really bad. And man, I was out for the whole week. So, and David's like, "Oh, are we doing a podcast tonight?" I'm like, "Ah!" And then David's like, "Well, Nick, I need your help." And Nick came in clutch. So thank you, David, for doing that. And thank you, Nick, out there wherever you are in fairyland. We just appreciate you so much. Oh, and I loved listening to you talk about Noah. I need to watch it now. So, any more thoughts on Noah?
Yeah, I'll just repeat kind of what I said, is that it's worth a watch as from a storytelling perspective. I think a lot of believers were put off by it because they're there's rock creatures in it. There's stone golems in the story of Noah's Ark. What the heck's going on here? You know, but it's that the reality of it is it's the additions taken kind of from the Book of Enoch go with the Noah story pretty darn well. It's not just some kind of Hollywood being Hollywood thing. Mm-hmm. There was actually some careful thought put into the construction of the writing of the script for the film and all that. So yeah, if you're a believer out there and you are put off by the idea of Russell Crowe's Noah, and you just carried that with you, so you never took the opportunity to watch it because of that, I would say give it a watch.
Yeah, carry on, my wayward son, and watch the Darren Aronofsky classic. Wait, was it Darren Aronofsky that did it?
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah. It does get
so if you're a fan of The Whale and other water-themed titles. Then Noah's right up your alley.
Yeah, it does get a little weird towards the end. So you might not like it. You might not like the final act, but overall, it's a good movie.
Yeah, well, yeah, speaking of things that are based on biblical scripture, but taken with some liberties. After I listened to the last week's episode, I also watched the first 3 episodes of House of David on Prime. And yeah, it's pretty dang good. Anybody out there who's listening, if you like The Chosen, you're automatically by default going to like this. It's kind of that style, but it's the story of David and his comeuppance and how he defeated Goliath.
Oh man!
Apparently, there's some big controversy with the show that I'm not privy to, but I've been told that there is some kind of controversy around it because of the way they interpret the scripture. But you got Stephen Lang as
Is it because
Samuel.
they're Mormons?
I don't know. Maybe. I don't think. No, Angel Studios is not connected to this in any way. It's some other company, and the people who wrote and directed. This is their first thing they've done, and it's pretty dang good.
Oh, you said in the style of The Chosen, so I was I thought,
because they're Mormons.
I thought
which
maybe
I guess they are, huh?
Yeah, I thought maybe it would have been something along those lines.
Yeah,
either Angel Studios is run by Mormons
I think
or
they're owned by Mormons.
something like that.
Something like that. Well, it was funny. Speaking of what we're going to get into as well, speaking of Twitter, there was a video I saw of a behind the scenes, like grainy video clip of somebody, just a behind the scenes clip, but in the background on the gaffer's like pole was a pride flag. And of course that video like was taken to be like, this is why you should watch the Chosen. People on the crew are support LGBTQ stuff. And it's like, what the heck are you talking about? Like, this is probably just some dude who's doing a gig, who's got a job, and he's getting paid because he's doing the job. And he might have different beliefs than what they're talking about.
Oh, yeah.
I'm sure there's quite a few Christians out there that have worked on a Darren Aronofsky movie and had disagreements with what the story was doing, or projects where you completely disagree about the story completely. So what's new, you know?
Yeah, that's just the realities of making any kind of media. Is generally the people who are hired to do the more technical things are not selected based on their ideology.
Yeah, or to get the job done. So anyway, but yeah, anyway, David, it's pretty dang good. I've only seen the first 3 episodes, but they're doing some cool stuff. They have cool parallels. Storytelling is really interesting, and it's just well made. And it's on location too. Like, I don't know where they filmed it, but it sure looks like 1000 BC Israel, I guess. I don't know, but it's out in the nature and it's kind of cool. So, and there's like mention of like Enoch and everything because of Goliath and the Giants, and it's pretty, it's cool, it's interesting. They tie some stuff into it.
I was gonna say.
Anyway, go ahead and correct me, David.
I was
scholar. You
sorry. I was gonna ask: is the controversy? Did they make? Did they add gay? No, did they add gay undertones to David's relationship with Jonathan? Because you said you only watched the first 3 episodes, right?
Yeah, correct. Yes.
So were people thinking they added like some gay undertones to David and Jonathan's relationship?
I'm sure I will get there, but I don't know if it goes there itself, you know, in terms of that kind of thing.
Because that's like a classic.
Yeah, that's a classic.
That's a classic trope of liberal theology is reading gay undertones.
That's why his wife didn't like him. That's why Saul's daughter didn't like him, because he actually liked his son.
Yeah. Oh my God.
No, it's all brotherly love, man, as far as I know, but I don't think this show's going to go there, but who's to say? I've only seen the first 3 episodes, so. But those first 3 episodes, they're pretty good. Dude, Stephen Lang, Quarrick from Avatar, and the dude from Terra Nova, if you ever remember that 1-season show, is Samuel, and he's pretty cool. Like, I'm really enjoying his performance. So, anyway, let's move on to what we're actually here to talk about today. So David, I have a question for you. We are here in the modern age where you can scroll through your phone and get sucked in and just be completely enveloped by whatever micro community you happen to be into, whether it be grilling on any kind of certain grill Reddits, I almost said relics, grilling Reddits, or maybe some gaming discussions on NeoGAF, or maybe some culture war political fights on Twitter, which the latter sounds more interesting to me personally. I think that's what we'll probably dive into a little bit today, and dive a little bit of politics as well, and we'll see where it goes. So, are you ready? All right, I had a little write up here, so let's dive into it. As we dive into this extremely online topic, I'd like to start with this. Has Elon buying Twitter been a positive change? Let's take a look at the problem a lot of people have had with the platform: gamifying the engagement. The method people are using to farm engagement from users to gain likes, views, and reposts are methods like we've seen before. We've seen it on, your old YouTube, Instagram, and Facebook. A method that has been used before, but we're going to get through this, David. Don't worry.
Oh my God.
All right. So basically, how do we feel about Elon kind of forming Twitter into a business-minded sense, as well as people mad about, specifically I wanted to touch on the engagement, how it's kind of being gamified which kind of like the case for every other platform when you think about it in a certain way. Like when you look at what the algorithm latches onto, you look at that and that's how you analyze it and that's how you make money, right? Kind of like why YouTube Shorts are just exploding or have been exploded for a long time because apparently that's driving people to it, you know? But words are shockful. This isn't a whole video platform, even though there's plenty of videos to go around. But words that'll shock people. But what are people mad at the specific thing? Is it because this is supposed to be the public square, David? Let's look at another aspect of the platform, formerly known as Twitter. Elon seemingly shadow banning people who criticize his posts or views. Here's a website I found. It's called shadowban.useeriza.com, where you can input an X account and see if it's been affected by, in quotes, shadow banning. I ran the popular user Wario64 and came up with nothing. I also tried Laura Loomer, an account who's a notable right-wing journalist, and has a history of losing engagement, allegedly, after criticizing Elon. And again, I found nothing. I also tried the quartering. Nothing. And I tried David Axelrod, a left-wing commentator and CNN analyst with over about 1 million views. Still nothing. And so then I went and looked on this website, shadowban.useeriza.com, and I found the TOS of the current Twitter. And this is what it says verbatim. Number 4, using the services. Our services evolve constantly. As such, the services may change from time to time at our discretion. We may stop or permanently or temporarily providing the services or any features within the services to you or to users generally. Okay, yeah, we're getting there. Continuing on, we also retain the right to create limits on use and storage at our sole discretion at any time. We may also remove or refuse to distribute any content on the services, limit distribution, or visibility of any content on the service, suspend or terminate users, and reclaim users without liability to you. Now, here's the thing. That's the website description. But then right under it in tiny text is the old Twitter rules. And here's what that says. In a blog post from July 2018, Twitter claimed that they did not shadow ban people by defining shadow banning as deliberately making someone's content undiscoverable to everyone except the person who posted it, unbeknownst to the original poster. And basically I wrote it in here, and I'll put it in the description too, because it's kind of interesting. And basically what it tells you is, okay, yeah, we shadow ban people, but it is even more vague than what Elon's new Twitter is formed under. Like Elon, like this kind of basically just says, like the old Twitter is straight up shadow ban and downranked people at the point what they seemed is justified, and they justified it through their TOS. But now in the new TOS, they straight up just say, we may remove or refuse to distribute content on the service. Like just straight up, like that's our right. And there's nothing necessarily wrong with that. But I also included a bunch of articles that went through and did research on this. I even looked up Owen Schroyer, who works a lot with Alex Jones, talks about shadow banning. There's a bunch of users that complain about it, and maybe they said something here or there. It's kind of iffy sometimes because you'll see people post that, I'm getting shadow banned after this popular post. But what if they said something else that they deleted or something? Because it could be something like that. So it's a more nuanced topic. But I don't know, David. I was looking into this, and I'm like, is this a good thing, a bad thing? I think I know what it is, but I want to discuss it with you. What do you feel about the gamifying the system, as well as a business, they're just taking down or shadow banning or uplifting any content they want? What do you think? As this is the public square, in quotes.
Yeah, I think as much as Elon has branded himself as a free speech absolutist, and as much as Twitter has been branded as the public square in the past, I think trying to derive our expectations from that are unrealistic. So Elon, as much as he likes to claim he's a free speech absolutist, he's not a free speech absolutist, but he is miles ahead of the competition.
Oh, yeah.
In terms of his commitment to freedom of speech. So you just gotta, so in regards to shadow banning and that, you just gotta you got to temper your expectations. It's like, it's not like if you were the kind of person who wanted to place all your hopes for society on, us having true freedom of speech on social media platforms, then I could see how you'd be disappointed by Elon Musk turning out not to be the freedom of speech absolutist that he has claimed to be in the past. But that's not a healthy mindset to have anyway. Should always view social media as an auxiliary tool that can help or hurt in life, not something that is, we need to get this right or society won't function kind of a thing,
Yeah, and I think it's interesting. It makes me think of like after the election, after Trump won, I remember seeing Facebook walk back a lot of their censorship stuff, or what they quoted as moderation. And they said they're going to take a step back from moderation, which is a really interesting term to call that. And I remember seeing them like, wow, they must be really scared of the big bad orange man, But I think in actuality, it's like Zuckerberg and his crew are making Facebook like more competitive, I think, with Twitter, as well as the guy who owns Twitter now is working with the administration. And that's like now, I wouldn't say it's like the template of what they like, what the administration wants, but I think it might be like a reference point. I think it might be something that the Trump and his folks and the whole crew kind of look at, and they're like, you know what, this has brought a lot more freedom and a lot more availability, and kind of also saved the election in our favor in a way when you like kind of analyze it, because you can literally put a stuff on there and it won't be taken down if it's a controversial topic, like the Hunter Biden laptop story, which was put on Twitter and then immediately banned. You also have Project Veritas that did a bunch of stuff with James O'Keefe before they kicked him out and they got taken over. But they did do a bombshell where they got a certain Twitter engineer to say, yeah, we shadow ban conservatives, like straight up. That was back in 2018. And there's a quote here where the guy says, yeah, just go to a random Trump tweet and just look at the followers. They're all like, guns, God, America. And it goes through, and this guy's like thought of the people who support Trump and kind of like the polarization you see in that company before Elon came and bought it. So I think it's far more nuanced than I think is, Elon taking over good or bad. Is it public square? It's free speech absolutist. I don't think anybody's really a free speech absolutist, like in the technical sense.
Well, nobody is who runs social media platforms, that's for sure.
Yeah, because if you were a free speech absolutist, then you would literally be fine with anything being said and posted and put out there, Which,
there has to
be lines drawn.
There has to be lines drawn, or otherwise you won't have a social media platform anymore.
Yeah. And there was a funny discussion on Timcast where they had a guy on. He's like, yeah, I'm a free speech absolutist. And they're like, what about child porn? He's like, well, that's terrible. You wouldn't put that. And he's like, okay, so you're not a free speech absolutist. And it's like kind of a double entendre, but they were kind of using that as like a straw man to kind of convince him like it's not really a free speech absolutist. Like it's by just the technical term, like the technical meaning of the word.
And that's really where I think a lot of the disappointment has come from with people who are feel like Elon was like lying or whatever when he said he was a free speech absolutist, because you can't really be a free speech absolutist in the sense that I'm going to allow everything on my platform, including child pornography and murder, like murder films and stuff like that.
That's funny. You said that, and I had a reaction like, "Whoa!" He said that, and then I just said it. So
yeah, so it's like you wouldn't be a free speech absolutist in that sense.
In that sense, yeah.
So if you were gonna say you were a free speech absolutist, you would mean it in in a sense where it includes some sort of reasonable lines drawn where if you cross them, you can't get that posted. And so the conflict comes when your personal lines that you would draw are further out than Elon's line that he draws, and you're disappointed because of that.
Yeah, it's interesting because kind of going back to the journalists and the old head of Twitter when they were running it, and Jack Dorsey and the whole board of directors, during that video I referenced by Project Veritas where they were talking to the engineer in the hot mic, the guy said, oh yeah, you basically, and they're like, how do you get rid of the people and how do you determine who's a bot and who's not? And he's like, well, you can use machine learning. And he says here, what it's like an algorithm. Or then the journalist says, you write an algorithm where you can like look for things. And the guy said, yeah, basically that's what you do. You kind of like look for keywords. You look at like what they support, what they have in their bio, and you use your algorithm to kind of flush all that out. And I thought that was really interesting because now that it's kind of turned on its head where it's the other way politically, it's the other way politically in terms of the people, like how they view things, but it's free for both left and right. It's no longer just a one-sided thing, I think. And like, you're not going to have a leftist person get downranked, maybe unless they criticize Elon, allegedly. But I think it's just interesting how we're in this more freer space, but people are trying to, what's the word, David? Sabotage the reputation of these platforms. Because not everybody is flocking to them, but there is an obscene amount of people flocking to them. And I'm not talking about US, I'm talking global. There's a reason why X is the #1 news app in like India and other stuff like that. So
yeah, speaking of gamifying the system though, it's I guess they recently had to suspend X payments to India because they were found a way to farm engagement that was basically just like bringing down the total share of X payments that everyone was getting.
Oh, so they were like getting all the money together. Is what you're talking about?
Essentially what was happening was, because from what I understand, I haven't looked into this super deeply, so I could be wrong, but from what I understand, the payments to creators on X come from one pool of money.
Okay.
So if the more people are getting paid out by X, it seems like that affects the amount of money available for each person. And so what was happening with Indian creators on X is they were basically doing like really spammy short posts, and like they were just doing that multiple times a day, and they were having these like basically they were gathering all their friends and their people in their network sort of together, and they were all doing this, and they were all liking and following and commenting on each other's stuff, all doing that. And so they racked up tons and tons and tons of money doing that. I should say tons and tons of money doing that, because the amount of what they were getting in terms of US dollars wasn't like massive. But in terms of what that was worth and what that would purchase in Indian currency.
Oh,
it was like fueling. It was basically fueling some pretty lavish lifestyles.
Whoa!
And enough people were catching on to this scheme that it was actually causing a drop in creator payments in general.
Dang.
Because all these people from India were hopping on board this scheme to do the same thing.
Dang, I didn't know that. That's crazy. And I think that's one of the criticisms I've read before about Twitter is like, why are they doing it based on engagement? You could gamify the system, man. Like, how do you moderate that? Well, it sounds like they're actually moderating it. And also it sounds like those people are really dumb and made too much of an intention toward themselves. So there's that as well.
Yeah.
But thank God it's based in US money and not like Shenzhen coins or whatever, you know, or Dogecoin. You know? But going back to gamifying, I'm going to bring him up. I'm going to talk about Grums for a second. You know who I'm talking about? Grums. Do you know who this person is? Oh, God bless you, David. You sweet summer child, David. I'm so happy for you that you don't know who Grums is.
Because I don't know. I know a lot of terrible and disturbing things.
If you've watched The Quartering for any amount of time, you'd probably know who Grums is. But you don't watch The Quartering because you're a good man, and I'm proud of you. Even though you're subscribed to him. So am I. And we don't watch it. We just are subscribed to him. But anyway, there's this person, and that's his name, Grums, with a Z. And he's an old World of Warcraft developer from back in the day. And he got popular by criticizing the more woke elements of the video game industry. And so he's kind of everywhere on Twitter now. And also Elon Musk now follows him too. So like that's a big up in his algorithm. But he's been such a pain in the A for so long that people are starting to kind of push back on him. There was of course, Assassin's Creed Shadows comes out, and of course, everybody and their mother who plays video games have been criticizing this, you know, at least online is what they'll say, is they're criticizing the new Assassin's Creed for, you know, woman protagonist and a black protagonist in Japan. That's crazy. And it kind of is, honestly, but that's not the point. The game comes out, right? And everybody leading up to it just is dogging on Ubisoft. They hate it, right? And then Grums, of course, you know, the day of the game comes out, he's like, look at this. You got the lowest engagement and all this other stuff. And man, these pre-order numbers are going to be horrible. And then literally, like, and he's talking pre-orders, like, and then like literally the Assassin's Creed account on Twitter, the actual account that's run by some community manager, says below his tweet, our game is out. That's all they say. And he got basically ratioed, like from everybody liking that tweet. And of course he tries to rebound and says, no, that's not what I mean, you know, blah, blah, blah. And then Elon gets in on it and the Assassin's Creed account ducks on that too. So it's like, the people are like, oh, that's funny. That's a good joke, you know? And then Grums is like freaking out because he's like, no, I'm supposed to be the center of attention. And if you look at his behavior on his account, if you go just look up Grums on Twitter, it's all that. It's just farming engagement, kind of getting stuff that's kind of like, just, it's like woke this, woke that, bad thing about the games industry this, bad thing about the games industry that. And I'm an expert because I was a World of Warcraft dev. But he's just getting really... just to be really annoying and very overbearing, and people are kind of done with him kind of in general. But that's just one example of, I'm sure, many that are taking advantage of the algorithm and putting things that'll get out there. I think I mentioned it before, but I don't know on the podcast, but you and me were talking about it. There's this YouTube account that I was subscribed to for a while that does video essays. And then he put a video out about Last of Us and like the intergalactic game that we talked about a couple of months ago. And he basically was like having this argument about it. But the whole time I'm watching it, I'm like, we don't even know what Intergalactic's about, or the game is even in our hands yet. Like, it's years away. Why are we having these criticisms about it when we don't even know what it's about? And I'm all for speculation. I think it's fun to speculate. But it was just done in a way that kind of rubbed me the wrong way. Maybe because I'm biased. I love Last of Us. But I then go to the guy's YouTube channel, and every video is woke this, woke that. And every video is dogging on Assassin's Creed Shadows. Literally every little piece of news that comes out, he made a 15-minute video about it. And it's his whole YouTube channel. And I don't even want to mention his name because I don't think he deserves to be looked up, because he's just kind of just farming content. Yeah. And I'm like, I mean, if you want to make your money, that's cool. But that's not what I'm on YouTube for, and is to kind of find cool content that connects with me, not to just be part of this game, you know. And arguably, you could say that for the Quartering. You could say that for a lot of people out there. And I don't know. I'm kind of tired of it all. I'm tired, boss. I'm tired, David. I'm online too much. I need to go touch some grass and just disconnect from reality and go pray or something, maybe read more Ephesians, I guess, But I don't know. What do you think about this whole gamifying system? You mentioned the Indians. The Indians are doing it, and now there's a war with Pakistan, so maybe that's the cause of it. So
yeah, well, I mean, that's apparently there has been a U.S. brokered ceasefire.
Whoa! Like no more money being exchanged?
No, for between India and Pakistan.
Oh, so they're neither working with the U.S. Neither, as in none of them are.
Okay, I thought you were referencing something, and
oh no,
it seems like you weren't because you don't know what I'm talking about.
I don't know what you're talking about. I'll be honest. What are you talking about, David? Ceasefire on the brokers?
I thought you were talking about. You mentioned India and Pakistan.
Yes.
I thought you were talking about the war between India and Pakistan.
Yes, that's what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
I mentioned that. Yes.
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 I'm talking about the war between India and Pakistan. There's a ceasefire now.
Oh, there is?
Yes.
Oh, cool.
It's
all right.
a U.S. brokered ceasefire.
Dang, really?
Yes.
Dang, those folks that are doing Ukraine and Russia they got their hands full over there for ceasefires. Yeah. Well, good. I'm glad no people are killing each other no more.
Yeah.
For now, So
it's a
miracle.
It's like
I thought you said like brokerage, like they're no longer doing business with America because neither would support them.
No, the ceasefire is U.S. brokered.
Okay.
Yeah. But yeah, he said
I'm so sorry, dude.
He said that we would get tired of winning. And I'm still not tired of winning. I'm still not tired of winning.
He also said, what did he say? He said, buy it now. Buy the stocks now because they're going to go up. They're going to go way up above. I can't believe how high they're going to go from what I've been told. It's like, all right, you know what? Anyway. So,
but yeah,
gamifying
the system. I feel like that's just kind of it. Because of the amount of money that's in social media now, it's something that's kind of inescapable at this point. Like, I'm glad that the obvious, like, scams are being, cracked down upon, like... Twitter stopping X payments to India over what was going on over there. So I'm glad that some amount of effort is being put into getting that kind of stuff off the platform. But it's like realistically, just due to the fact that there's so much money in it, and it's primarily an advertiser driven thing that social media is.
Yeah.
You're just never going to get away from it. Your best hope is, like you said, to go touch grass every once in a while.
Yeah, disconnect, man.
One thing too is I always, if I don't follow a person just because, like, I watched one video and they had one thing to say that kind of like, it's like before I follow a person on social media, I'm making sure that, like, on a regular basis, they're saying things that they're making the kind of content that I want to see, essentially. So I'm not just like out there looking
for everything and anything.
Looking for, people who fit the particular zeitgeist of the day, like if, everyone's all like, yeah, we're finally anti-woke and all this and that, but I'm not here, and I'm anti-woke myself, but I'm not here hopping on every, hitting that subscribe button on every person who makes an anti-woke video on YouTube, It's social media is a thing that you gotta, it's a tool. You gotta use it correctly.
And it can be actually really like if you train it right, like your algorithm in terms of like what you like and follow and what you can literally hit the 3 dots on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter, or whatever, X now. But you can literally hit those 3 dots on a post and say, I am interested in this, recommend me more. Or on Facebook, recommend me more of this for 30 days. Like, you can do that. Now, it takes work, but it's more about intentionality than anything. I remember when I was super deep in Instagram last year, I was like so deep, just meme video after meme video. Like, I started doing that, and I think I got a bunch of content that I loved. And I'm like, man, this is dumb humor that's super funny. And also there's like some random like Bible humor videos in there that can be kind of cringy sometimes, but you get what you get, depends on what happens, but you can train it is my goal, what I'm getting at. And we talked about this before in the pod, where it's part of being intentional, but also like, you don't have to be I think the main thing is a lot of people don't do that because it's kind of like, it's already this thing. I'm kind of just relieving stress to go look at some quick videos and my posts and the friends and family and all that kind of stuff, or the people I like, It's like, it's more of a brainless activity than anything else. It requires very little intentionality already. So when you bring more intentionality to it, you can probably get more out of it, but honestly, maybe it's better to just limit yourself to that kind of stuff. So I don't know. What do you think, David? Have you ever hit the 3 dots, say I'm interested or I'm not interested? Because I do. I'm not interested actually quite a bit on Twitter.
I don't think so. I follow a very limited set of people, and I usually stick to the tab for that's just people I'm following. I usually don't.
You don't do the 4 U's.
Yeah, I only.
God bless you.
I only occasionally venture into the For You tab.
It could be a dangerous place sometimes. But when I see something that's cool, I'm like, that's awesome. Bookmark it and like it and then move on. But there's some stuff, especially ads, where I'm like, God, just get this out of my face. Like, if I have to see one more Clash Royale or whatever match ad, I'm just gonna go crazy. Like, if they're stupid.
Yeah, it's really funny how sneaky they are with ads, because it's like they say they're ads, but you don't always notice the little ad thing in the corner when you're scrolling through like responses to a post or whatever, and you just start reading it as if it were like a reply to the post conversation thread that you're in.
Yeah.
And then you read it and you're like, wait, what the heck's going on here? And then it's an ad.
Yeah, like you like click on a post and you're like scrolling through it, and like the first 3 are like either an advertisement or like a recommended post from like a For You thing that would be in your For You. It's weird.
I've
like,
never gotten that.
Oh, you haven't gotten that? Oh, so
usually there's an ad after like 4 or 5 replies and like a comment thread.
Okay, so that's what I'm thinking of. It's not like the first thing, but it's like the 3rd, 5th, whatever. It's in there, But it'll be like random stuff. Like I'll click on a gaming post from Mr. Matty Plays on Twitter, or like Sacred Symbols or whatever. And then like there'll be like an ad and then like a thread about the UK and Keir Starmer or something like way down there. I'm like, what? Why is this here? This ain't no website. I'm not going to a website and having the next article automatically load. Like, come on, Twitter. But it's part of engagement. And honestly, like if this is the way the company makes money and it stays free, like free for in terms of opinion, then cool. I think that's fine. As a business, I think that's fine. They can do that. It doesn't mean I have to like it, but they can, I guess. So, and you already agreed with it when making an account, so you know what you're getting into at this point. So, but yeah, that's pretty much all I got for this one. I just think it's interesting. I just can't wait for the AI war to happen online, when there's like going to be an AI bot for Facebook and going to war with an AI bot on NeoGAF, which will somehow still be a thing at that point,
Yeah, NeoGAF of all places.
Was that the website that shut down after USAID got shut down, or was that 4chan? I can't remember.
No, it's 4chan.
It was God, yes, that's amazing. I love that. It like proves every conspiracy theorist about 4chan that they were correct. They were correct about the entire thing.
That's funny.
That it's a psyop.
4chan has, if it's really funny. apparently for those in the know, were saying that, 4chan has been awful for quite some time. Like it hasn't been the, the place of it hasn't been lived up to its legendary status for years now, apparently. So maybe it was a good thing.
Maybe it was a good, like, that it got shut down.
Yeah.
Oh, I agree. Yes. I'm glad it's gone. I did write some stuff down. Like, I was doing research and I found some things about Disney that I totally forgot about that happened like 2 years ago on Twitter that James O'Keefe exposed. Like, there was that thing where, what was it? It was the guy who worked for Disney. He was a higher up and he like catfished the dude down in LA, and he was able to like get information out of him that they actually do discriminate when they're hiring folks, and they specifically won't hire white people, specifically is what he mentioned.
Disney does this?
Yes. This was in 2022.
That is, that's funny.
Yeah, it's hilarious. And then the next day after they exposed the guy and the video went out, he did a video, James O'Keefe, he did a video where he called a lot of people at Disney, like different secretaries under different departments. Like he called HR, he called other people, he called, asked to have meetings with people, and they all said, no, we don't know who you are, whatever, He's like, yeah, about some weird videos about some pride parades that were funded by Disney, and there was naked people there, which is a real thing. There's videos out there. People riding on bikes completely naked, which is like super crazy and like bizarre. But yeah, this guy said, yeah, we kind of discriminate. Like nobody's looking to hire a white guy here, And it's like, okay, wow, that's interesting. But then you dive deeper into it. And if you do dive into it, there's some shady stuff that's happened to at least the people who have worked for Disney in the past have been pretty shady. Including several like child sex trafficking stings that have happened where they've caught people and it turns out they actually worked for Disney, specifically in Florida. A lot of that was there. And as well as Walt Disneyland in LA. So just some weird stuff. And it's funny because Jack Posobiec, during all this investigation from James O'Keefe, did a limited edition shirt that has the Disney castle, but it says groomer in the Disney font underneath it. And he got banned on Twitter for that during 2022 before Elon bought it. So all very interesting stuff. And it's just Disney being, I think just the people who ran it at the time, and I think who are still there, obviously, they're kind of just very, very set on and kind of brainwashed, I think. And we don't have to go into the topic. I just found it interesting, like them opposing the Florida bill about teaching rights and everything. I don't know if you remember that whole controversy.
Oh, yeah. The Don't Say Gay bill.
Which is not Don't Say Gay bill at all. It's just giving parents more control over what happens in the classroom. And basically, if you read the bill verbatim, it says, must inform parents about any change to the child in any form, including curriculum, basically.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, that sounds great to me. Like, I'm all for that. But I think it's weird because Disney specifically made a statement against that bill, which kind of shows what their face is truly looking at. And I think it's very icky. It's icky.
Well, I think part of it is they were trying to cash in on the opposition that the bill was receiving. They were, because in that time, at that time, the whole woke movement it hadn't reached its point where people just said we're done with this. So it had a lot more steam to it, and so I think what was happening then is Disney was like hoping to be thought of as we're going to be on the right side of history on this issue, kind of a thing. Kind of gain that sort of positive image, which would, hopefully lead to, more sales and all that. So I don't necessarily think that Disney was trying to,
you think they're just capitalizing on the...
Yeah, I don't think they were necessarily trying to push any any narratives. I think they were just trying to capitalize on the direction that they thought the wind was blowing at the time.
Would that coincide, though? Let me bring a counterpoint to that, though. Remember the video they had in the the Zoom meeting at Disney where the chick said it's our not so secret gay agenda? Do you remember that?
Yeah. No, I saw that. I saw their response to it was their internal response to it was they were gonna start pushing.
Yeah, really pushing that stuff.
They were gonna start pushing that stuff, but I think what that was is the people who work for Disney in terms of animators, writers, middle management. There's a whole lot of lunatic lefty woke people in that part of the company.
Yeah.
So when I say they weren't trying to push anything, I was talking more about at the top level.
At the top level. Okay.
So their response of their internal memos that were sent out in response to the quote unquote "Don't Say Gay" bill, I think were more of, it was just kind of, those were Disney employees kind of sort of picking trying to join the culture war, and the higher ups were kind of just letting it happen because they were trying to capitalize on it.
Well, yeah, and they're not going to say no to the mass majority of employees or the people who at least have power within the company propping that kind of stuff up.
But what ended up,
influence.
But what ended up actually coming out from that whole thing is when Disney saw that the wind was not quite blowing in the direction that they thought it was, they actually started to cut back on that stuff.
Yeah.
Because you actually had a lot of, I think it was Pixar employees.
Yeah, Pixar employees.
Complain about how LGBTQ focused characters and storylines were sort of being trimmed out of productions.
Yeah. Yeah, there was a whole, I can't remember the show that came out on Disney Plus in the last year, but it was that baseball one that Pixar did. I can't remember the name for the sake of me, but it had a cut storyline that I saw at least reported. I didn't really dive deep into it, but apparently there was a person who was transgender or something like that in that show that they did cut out. In fact, there's a character that prays in the show, who's a Christian, supposedly, which is interesting as well, that that was in there. They didn't cut that out, but that was actually in the show in the finished product, in the latter half of the series. But it's interesting and weird because you also look at the and I'm not saying LGBTQ, the entire community is like this, just to be clear.
Well,
let me finish because I'm going to bring up the child sexting stuff. The sex stinging of from the Washington Post, CNN, ABC, The Independent, 3 employees of Walt Disney World arrested in major child sexting in Florida. Disney security guard is naked in the sting. And these are all labeled 2 years ago, 2021, 2022, 2014, 2016. It's kind of weird how I'm not saying it's the gay agenda in quotes, but I do think that if you're a company focused on kids and you don't have a good vetting process, I feel like a lot of people can slip by who have very malintentions.
Yeah.
At least that's what comes off to me from reading all this stuff. It's not there's a big conspiracy theory that Disney's trying to push on this because they want children, man. And it's it could be true. I don't know. But it seems to me it's unvetting people and not vetting them well.
It's just, creative industries are saturated with folks like this because
some freaking weirdos.
Yeah, so it's really just a natural product of what you're gonna get just because of the times we live in. And it's funny that when I said well after you said that, I was gonna say it's
Sorry.
I was gonna say it's it doesn't really like, it doesn't really behoove us to necessarily be apologetic about statements like that, because what I'm finding out is anyone who brands themselves as being like caring about, as being a part of the LGBTQ movement or caring about LGBTQ issues, or uses pride or the rainbow flag or any of those other flags as part of their communication is different than a person who is simply gay or lesbian or transgender. So it's like, while I disagree with how those people live their lives, it's also their lives and not mine. So I don't really care what choices they make. You know, they can make whatever choices they want, and I'm not going to necessarily call them bad people for it, if just because I disagree. But you know, when we're talking about, if we're going to talk about the LGBTQ, that's an entirely different thing. There's definitely been a whole, like, a separation of, shall we say, the wheat from the chaff. I don't know if that's the right phrase to use in regards to this, because now it seems like people who happen to be gay or happen to be transgender or what have you, who are otherwise just normal people, are actually coming over to where they also oppose the LGBTQ movement.
So switching sides.
Yeah, it's like, now
they don't want to be associated with the craziness so that has to do with it.
Nowadays, being LGBTQ isn't even about just being gay or being trans anymore. LGBTQ is now this like all-encompassing social movement that is actually pushing a harmful ideology, trying to push a harmful ideology onto society. And people who in the past might have identified as part of that movement are now saying, we don't identify as that part of that movement anymore because this is crazy, and we just want this, you know, the same normal things that everybody else wants. You know, and we'd rather just you know, not even talk about our sexuality rather than identify with a movement that's pushing all this crazy stuff, you know.
So you're telling me that the whole crew, the LGBTG crew in general, went ahead and they shouted out their identity and said it's the most important thing to their lives, and their sexuality is the most important thing. They shouted it out so much that it attracted other folks from all corners of the earth, David. All corners. And it sounds like to me you're saying that it attracted some crazies in there, some weirdos in there, and they overtook that movement.
Yeah.
Or was it always part of that movement?
I mean, that's up to speculation, I think, you know, because it's like there's always been, well, not always, but ever since the, what we might call, you know, LGBTQ pride, wokeism, leftism, ever since that ideology sort of emerged. And, you know, I'm no expert on the history of that ideology, so I'm not necessarily going to point out when it emerged. But when it did emerge, I mean, it carried with it the same desire to destabilize the moral and social foundations of the West. Now, the question is did the pride LGBTQ rainbow movement start off rooted in that ideology, or did that ideology creep in later on, and later on that I don't know. I'm not an expert on that.
It reminds me of that kind of reminds me of my red pill moment. I kind of want to get to this later, like what our red pill moment was, David. I don't think we'll ever get there. I feel like it's so far down the trail, or it's so close and we can just touch it. But regardless, I remember watching Christina Hoff Sommers talk about this kind of thing. And she was saying that, she's a lifelong feminist. And in 2015, she was doing a speech, I think with Steven Crowder and Milo. And that was a very popular, like video that went out. They were speaking at a university and they were talking about, politics and that kind of thing. But Christina Hoff Sommers, during her moment of talk, was mentioning about the second wave feminism and how that evolved into third wave feminism in the 90s and how it had its roots started there. And it was all these folks from universities and higher education that started it. And she said back then, I can't remember the details, but she said basically it paved the way for feminism to dissociate itself from empowering women, but empowering the putting down of men over women. And that's what led to third wave feminism. And then that led into arguably fourth wave feminism when you get the transgender stuff mixed into it, because they became so open-minded and didn't gatekeep at all, which is, watch out, gatekeep. That's a scary word. But it's used for a reason, because they didn't gatekeep. And as a result, that wave got taken over. And now they have to support the transgender movement, and which translates into men in women's sports.
Yeah. Unfortunately, while I am, like, it's cool that, women can vote and, like,
oh my God, David, watch out.
Own property.
It's cool.
Hold on.
I'm sorry, continue.
I'm not going where you think I'm going.
Okay, keep going.
So while it is cool that those advancements have been made, that is a net positive for society, in my opinion.
Ooh, that's a good question.
Some would argue that it's not, but I guess I haven't been that gone that far where I strayed that far from my classical liberal roots, where I think that's a bad thing. But anyway, so I'm all for the women's liberation, the effects of the women's liberation movement in terms of voting rights, being able to own property, being able to, apply for a credit card without their husband's permission, stuff like that. Those are
some pretty great advancements.
Positive advancements for society.
Yeah.
But
there are some... No, keep going. I'm sorry. Keep going.
But the interesting thing about the feminist movement is as far as I can tell, like, feminists have been crazy since day one. Like,
okay, let's dive deeper into that. What do you mean?
Like,
I think I know where this is going.
Like, they've done, like, people associated with older forms of feminism, like older feminist movements, like Gloria Steinem, people like that, have been, who were actually Ruth Bader Ginsburg,
Yeah.
like, those people have been part of campaigning for things which are good, like positive improvements in society, but they themselves, when I actually look at what they've written, what they've talked about, those people are still crazy. They're still nuts. And so it might be that feminism was a good movement started by bad people.
Okay.
And that just led to a breakdown, a gradual breakdown of what the movement was about in the first place, to what we have now, where it seems like you have people, modern trans affirming feminism, it seems to be actively trying to give men access to women's spaces and stuff like that, you know?
So you're telling me that the small domino was women's right to vote, and this big domino is men and women's sports?
No, I think the small domino was the early feminists,
Okay.
and the big domino is men and women's sports. Well,
Okay.
the big
Okay.
domino are people who now
Who
fight
people,
for
yes, people who
fight
yes.
for men and women's sports
Yes.
as feminists, because
for one reason or the other.
Yeah, the OG feminists were fighting for causes that I am for, but I think the only reason that they were able to achieve positive goals for society is because society as a whole was on the cusp of was ready to transition into a place where women could be viewed more as equals to men and all that.
Yeah.
Society was ready for the feminist revolution, so to speak. So all sorts of women and even men got on board with the movement to make the necessary change happen. It just so happens that the people who, the people who shaped the early movement, I think, were always crazy and were always weirdos, and just that never got talked about, that never got dealt with. It was always like crazy feminist figureheads allying with normal everyday women trying to achieve a common goal, and then at some point those goals were achieved and the normal women went on with living their lives while the crazy ones continued to fight the good fight, and that attracted that attracted people to the movement who wanted to push new things and even more out there things.
You know what the first comment on this video is going to be after hearing that? Says the two white men talking about this.
Yeah.
You know, that we might get that. And if you're listening, thanks for listening. You got pretty far in.
Yeah.
Yeah. I want to go back to what you said. The crazy people who started it, because I feel like it's the crazy people today that have let this other stuff slip through, I keep using the word gatekeep. No, who didn't moderate the movement, that were just free love, man. It's open to everybody, LGBT. Let's add another letter on there. I think it's more of a movement that got out of whack, out of control, and nobody was willing to put their foot down and say anything because they were doing it for the sake of accessibility, for the sake of inclusion, we'll say. Because you see the LGBTQ stuff is not called that anymore. It's called DEIA now with a 2. It's diversity, equity, inclusion, and then anti-racism and accessibility. At least that's in the university side of things. That's what they're referring to it now. That's the new kind of thing they're pushing. And it's kind of formed from LGBTQ stuff. So it's kind of like they took all the letters and they condensed them into 4 with the power of 2. Because it's DEIA, right? But it's with a 2 at the top because there's 2 A's, which is kind of not how it works. It's squared, A squared, but whatever. Anyway, I think it's the people who failed to for lack of a better term, gatekeep the movement from the crazy folks, from the people who are willing to go that extra step and say, no, 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 no. What about men who are pregnant? What about them, man? You know, it's like all this other stuff that's so disassociated from reality that you won't find anywhere outside of America except for the fringes of maybe some Western countries. In fact, it is the fringe belief of Western countries is this kind of stuff. And you get that mixed in with these companies who pride themselves, pun intended, on this kind of thing and put it in your face to the point where people are sick and tired of it, where there's a movement that started to push back against it and to push back against, you know, the woke, in quote. And you get the European countries coming in and they're letting a ton of illegal immigrants that believe in something who's totally opposite to that stuff. In fact, they would kill people who believe in that kind of thing. And these cultures don't clash in the first place. And so you kind of have this weird amalgamation of a movement that's kind of against it, a movement that's vehemently set in their ways that are from different countries that are not used to the Western culture and want to make the West the East or whatever culture they're from. And they want to, it's kind of a weird amalgamation of all this kind of stuff. And it's where we are today. We're getting to the point where people are just sick and tired of the crazy people in charge of things, whether it be LGBTQ or DEI, A squared or whatever, or the people who are running their country in general. It's coming from the corporate ladder. It's coming down and over to political stuff. I think it's unstoppable at this point. But I'm wondering, I don't know, what's next? Like, what's after this? I think it's the movement that's starting where it's... I think it's more like an awakening. People are kind of seeing through all the BS that they've been shoved
People are getting woke all over again?
They're getting new woke. It's new woke, David. Let's start it.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's already been started.
Yeah. Well, I did want to ask you a question, David. If men, and I'm talking good men, if the good men of the feminist movement went ahead back in the 90s or whatever that started happening and decided to gatekeep, hey, that's too crazy. You can't do that. That's way too much. Would we be in a different place than we are now, you know?
I don't know. That the idea that feminist men would ever do that, I can't see that ever happening.
Yeah, because they want the women to talk, you know?
Because the reason why men are feminists to begin with is they're
they're trying to do something. They got ulterior motives, we'll say.
Yeah,
100%.
Yeah,
I'm a male feminist.
Yeah, even feminists don't like male feminists.
Yeah, they're weird and pale and you know. So
I don't.
Yeah. That's really all I think I have to say about the. I don't know the fourth wave of feminism now that's being pushed back, and I'm excited. I'm glad that like parents that were brave enough to step up in the last 5 years did it, especially with COVID, because COVID really unveiled the curtain of what's really happening in the schools. And it's weird because I've been in the university system for almost 10 years now, whether as a student or as an employee. And it's interesting to see the people I've worked with over the years be very consistent and believe in the same things. Maybe becoming more fringer in general. But what I would say is there is a lot of good people that do fall into this kind of belief because it comes from a special speaker the college paid for to come talk, who wrote a book that's really great that all the professors agree with. And why do they agree with it? Well, who's funding all this stuff? Like, who's providing the disassociation and the what's it called? Not contentment. The C word I said earlier in the show. What is it, David? Tell me. Not contentment. The other one.
Contention?
Tension. Thank you. Who's causing all this contention? Who's causing all this contention? Who's funding all these little weird things that are happening, David? Like, is it China? Is it Jeff Bezos? No, not Bezos. Is it George Soros, I should say? Like, who is funding? Where's all this money coming from? And is it just part of getting the people to fight each other?
Ooh.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, we-
I think, okay.
Yeah, I mean, some might say, some who call themselves noticers might say that it's the J words,
Oh God, David,
the
no.
tiny hat
No,
people.
no. I wasn't going there. Soros is a Jewish name. That's not what he's talking about. I said China first off, by the way.
Yeah, but you said George Soros.
No, that's not what I'm talking about.
And the really funny thing
See,
is,
they're trying to get us to fight each other, David.
I just thought it was funny that you said George Soros, and it's like George Soros is definitely trying to
Yes.
Destabilize the West.
Yes.
By funding all these woke initiatives and all this crazy crap that's happening in universities.
Yeah.
And because he's Jewish, the so-called noticers, they definitely use him as part of their argument for their position.
Did you know Ibram X. Kendi came to where I work and spoke?
Really?
They paid him to be there.
Here?
Yes, to here in the North State. Yeah.
Wow.
I and honestly, it was like right as I got hired, and I didn't know who he was. Like I wasn't super savvy on that stuff. But I sat at an 8 o'clock in the morning Zoom meeting, and he talked on it. And it was
when was this?
This was in 2020.
Oh, okay.
And yeah, he spoke. I didn't know who he was, but his name sounded familiar. And then I remembered all the videos I watched with like Louder with Crowder and Jordan Peterson talking about this guy and how he's causing a lot of, I keep wanting to say contentment. No, it's
contention.
Contention. Thank you, David. But it made me wonder. I remember hearing what he was saying. I'm like, all the stuff he's saying sounds a little bit familiar, a little too familiar. And it comes out of a certain playbook that certain countries would use to kind of cause some little civil war in different countries, little unsettledness, you know. But they do it through the universities. And I'm referring to China, basically, and how they're funding stuff like that in our country.
Are you talking about Mao's Little Red Book?
Yep, Mao's Little Red Book, man. They're a lot of the terminology used in anti-racism stuff against the power, against all this other stuff, is really just meant for people to fight each other. It focuses on race. It focuses on something people can't change about themselves most of the time. And it's all about infighting. It's all about chaos. And that's really what it boils down to.
Yeah, it's often referred to as cultural Marxism for a reason.
Yeah.
Because really it's applying Marxist sort of oppressed narrative to your chosen sort of facet of society, whether that be race or gender or sexuality or whatever.
Yeah.
In the goal of getting people to battle over it, furthering history towards that inevitable communist revolution.
And all it took was 145% tariff to stop all of that. I'm joking. But I do want to say that I've been in it long enough in my job where I can see that stuff, and that stuff has still been a part of the identity of the curriculum of LGBTQ stuff, and it's just hold on for so long. But dude, I'll tell you what, every year at training, when we have somebody from, the diversity department or whatever come and talk, again and again and again, more new people who work with me who are younger and younger and younger coming in, they're like, this is a joke. Like, this is ridiculous. They're getting more and more aware of it. And I love that. Like, and I just adore that. I'm like, that is so cool. Like,
the kids are getting based and
red pilled, man. And it's awesome. Like, it happened especially last fall last spring. And I loved it. It was so much fun. I'm like, I can't say anything, but this is really cool. And like, I think me and Chris were there, and me and Chris were like, I was like, dude, these kids are based. He's like, yeah, I know. And that was Chris's last semester. But yeah, we were talking about that. And I was like, dude, everybody around our table was like, Yeah, they'll not say anything, but they're like, this is like bizarre and weird. And then there was, of course, one guy who's like, that's so dumb. Like, why was the word wigger used in the slurs? You know, like, like it's like, here are the slurs, and there's all the tools to fight against each other. And this is bad. Don't do it, guys. And it's like, basically, it all boils down to just be nice to each other is what they're trying to preach. But it's also preaching division through race relations.
Yeah.
And gender relations. Like men versus women, rich versus poor. It's classism. That's something that is, you know, you should focus on that more, arguably, than that. But that can still be a contention between people as well. So it's the people at, anyway, that's basically what I was getting at. Yeah. The kids are getting based, is what I'm saying. And I love it. I'm here for it. So, and yeah, I think that's all I got for you. You know, we're just two white guys just talking about it, David. But yeah, China, they suck. Yeah.
Good old China.
We're never going to be allowed in there. Let's be real. They probably have some Chinese interns that are listening to this, Chinese interns who work at Harvard listening to this podcast, tracking us down. But anyway, I'm going to throw it over to you, David. I'm done with mine unless you have anything else to say, but you have all these things, all these elements we've mentioned, and what's the monkey wrench that you're going to throw into this? I can't wait to hear it.
Let's see. Well, I did kind of want to talk about the
hail in the room. The Aryan in the room, I should say, who's black.
Yeah. that turns out that Candace Owens and who's the other one? Larry Elder aren't the black face of white supremacy. It's actually Kanye West.
Oh, man. Why, David? Tell us.
Oh, man. So I don't know if...
I mean, we're already canceled after this discussion, so it doesn't matter.
Yeah, I guess.
Go for it. Go for it, bro.
Yeah, so Kanye, like about... I want to say it was like 3 or 4 days ago, put out his new track from his upcoming album, and the track is titled Heil Hitler.
Woo! Wow.
It's like, I mean, I knew Kanye was crazy, and he was always, you know, being a little edgy boy about this sorts of thing, but to actually go and release a rap song titled Heil Hitler, that takes some cojones.
It's not something a normal-minded person would do. We'll just say that.
Yeah. And it's just, everything about it is so funny to me because, for one, it's catchy as all hell.
It is pretty catchy, I'm not gonna lie.
It's like...
You remember that song on the sorry to interrupt you. Remember that song on that Jurassic 5 album I mentioned?
Yeah.
All of these, you know?
Yeah,
one of them. It's called One of Them.
One of Them, yeah.
Yeah. That's a catchy song, and it's not for it's a catchy song that you shouldn't be singing out loud if you're a white guy.
Yeah. Yeah. It's one of those things where it's like,
it's a little different here, it's even worse here, but you know what I mean, you know.
Yeah. I've been like for the past couple of days, the chorus has been kind of stuck in my head, you know, because it's very catchy. It's very catchy. And I've just been kind of like singing to myself sometimes, like making my food, you know.
Yeah.
And it's really
so catchy.
It's a really catchy song.
It's a really catchy song. You're not going to say good, but you're going to say catchy, you know.
So, like, Kanye has many flaws, but one thing he absolutely knows how to do is to make a catchy rap chorus.
Make a banger, yeah. Like,
he definitely hasn't lost his edge there.
He hasn't lost his touch, you know.
But
it feels like he's been touched in the head, but he hasn't lost his touch, you know.
Yeah, I'm just like, cause it feels like such an escalation too.
Yes,
and you might say he just wants attention, but it's like this isn't the kind of, like, he's already tried this before. I shouldn't say tried this before, but like him flirting with the dark side of the political spectrum
Oh man.
hasn't really worked out well for him, and it's like it hasn't led to any sort of like it hasn't increased the buzz about Kanye, him doing that. Like it's always short patterns of outrage and then it dies down because people are forgetful. But now that he's gone and said the thing, less people want to be associated with him. And then he says something outrageous again. There's short little outrage and then it dies down again. But now, because he went and said the thing, even less people want to be associated with him. So it's like this behavior, unless he is just lost it, unless he's just like lost it to the point where he's like no longer has a functioning brain, like this isn't something that I feel was just done for attention or just done to, get some outrage. Because like he's been in the same pattern, and it's not getting him any. It's actually getting him less attention in the long run because people are like, I don't want anything to do with this, Yeah. So it's very bizarre that he would escalate it to such a degree. And
well, it makes me wonder, like, two things. First off, Yumi talked about the lady who's in the N-word and how she got a bunch of money on GoFundMe, right?
Yeah.
It's that and the discussion of what he says in the song, as well as what it's called, Heil Hitler and N-word Heil Hitler, it's like all this stuff. So there's a discussion there about how far our culture and what our culture is willing to put up with and what they care or don't honestly care about. And then there's the one from like Kanye's like, what is his end goal in this? He has literally alienated everyone. He alienated Hollywood by going the godly way. And then he alienated the godly people by going away from God. And now he's alienating everybody else by having a song that says N-words, Hail Hitler, So like, what's his end goal here? Is he just at Chaos Agent? Is he just got a lot of issues and he has the means to do whatever he literally wants? And is this a way to actually live? Like, is this a prosperous way to live? I don't think so, but what's the end goal of this is my question. Like, if he's a smart person, if he's so smart and brilliant, and he might be, I don't know him personally, but is this really the way to go about it?
My sort of
what is this? Why?
My take on the whole matter is I don't think there is a particular end goal for him anymore. I think of Kanye as a reflection of what's happening in society on a larger scale.
Can you please expound on that?
So I think there's a certain amount of fatigue over the accepted narrative regarding race in this country, in the West in general, but it's really been popping off in this country. People are just tired of
control.
They're tired of like being asked to treat one certain race as though they're oppressed victims of society, while also watch as society seems to try to bend over backwards to give them concessions wherever it can. It's a double standard.
Yeah.
A hypocrisy. Like one example of that is Michelle Obama going on a podcast recently saying that Black women don't articulate their pain because they never felt like they were given permission to. You know, which is kind of a nonsensical statement, because if you look at if you look at media, it's full of Black women articulating their pain. Like, there's no shortage in media, whether like mainstream media or like like homegrown social media type stuff. There's no shortage of Black women articulating their pain, and then like this comes at the same time that somebody, a giant 12-foot tall statue of an overweight Black woman in Walmart clothes was put in Times Square, as a monument to, how they've been oppressed and sidelined in our society. It's kind of a contradiction in terms. It's a double standard. Like, I think a lot of people, mostly white people, but I think even some non-white people are tired of seeing this narrative that Black people are oppressed, and then also seeing the society do its darndest to try and prop them up in every way it can, kind of a thing. And it's like there's a fatigue about it. They no longer want to worry. They no longer want to defer that to the accepted idea that you should never call out a Black person for bad behavior, or you should never use the naughty no word, because if you do any of those things, you're a vile racist contributing to the oppression of Black people. And there's a fatigue. People are tired of that. And I think what's happening with Kanye is very much the same thing. He's been beat down his entire life. He's been very successful, but like money does not buy happiness.
Yeah.
He's had a lot of problems, and he's just been ground down his entire life, and he's had enough. He wants to be the villain. He wants to be the agent of chaos at this point. So I think it's a little bit different, but it's kind of funny how those two sort of things are sort of conceptually converging, even though they're coming from, even though they're
different places,
rooted in different issues.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Because you have the whole, the N-word controversy over the Shiloh Hendrix fundraiser and stuff. Like, the fatigue there is people are like, well, I don't care if they call me a racist anymore. I don't care if they use people, say racial epithets anymore. It's like, I'm tired of the outrage over that. And Kanye is, meanwhile, tired of just being beaten down and ground down his entire life. And it's like they somehow both ended up in the same spot. Which is really funny to me. So
I want to mention to the audience real quick before I dive into this. When we were at youth group that Saturday, and you're telling me about this woman who called a Black child the N-word because this kid was legit trying to steal from her, right?
Or that's what she alleges.
That's what she alleges. Yeah. You were telling me about this, and we picked up one of the kids for youth group. I was like, oh yeah, so anyway, about the N-word. And he's like, whoa, what? because we were continuing our conversation that we started. And then we picked up a second kid, and I can't remember what I said, but I was like, okay, anyway, so back to the lady who's called the kid the N-word. And then we were continuing, and I was like, man, she's like, what have I got myself into? And then she's like, it's fine. I am curious of what you guys are talking about. But it was hilarious. So, but anyway, I know nothing, by the way, about this lady, and I would like to give my opinion on it, but I only know what you've told me. And honestly, I think that's probably all I need to know, because I don't really.
There's not
a whole lot
there's
to
not really,
it.
Yeah, there's not
I
really
just
a whole lot
find it
to it.
funny that people are kind of, for the sake of rebelling against the status quo, giving her money because of what happened. And because they don't want her to fail or be canceled because of this. This is just my view of it from what a little I know. I haven't watched any opinion on this kind of thing because I find it kind of a waste of time. But I do realize it as at least for the moment, a pinnacle of the moment for the cultural discussion. Even if I think it's incredibly stupid. I think it's dumb. I think it's like, why are we putting so much focus on this? But I think it's to the deeper issue you're talking about, where people are tired.
It's not necessarily that. One thing of clarification.
Okay.
Her fundraiser is not simply is not simply just because, it's like,
what's it for,
I'm getting canceled and I want money.
Yeah, what's it for?
Okay. Like that makes it seem a whole lot worse.
Okay. Yeah. That's all that's what I thought it was, but what is it really about?
Okay.
What's the GoFundMe for?
Like, I mean, that's what people are saying, but what's going on is, and of course this is everything that she's alleging. Yeah. So it could turn out all to be a lie, but also given the person who confronted her, there's also a good chance that it could turn out to be true too. So I'm saying I don't know if it's true.
Mm-hmm.
It could go either way, but this is what she alleges.
Okay.
This is what she alleges, that she has been doxxed, that her social security number has been leaked, that her family is being threatened, and she's asking for money so that she can relocate and start a new life somewhere where she won't get harassed and threatened.
Okay, gotcha.
And so people are contributing to that.
Oh, she's just doing it because of the N-word or whatever.
Yeah, people are contributing to that, but they're doing so because the whole Carmelo Anthony thing was kind of like the straw that broke the camel's back.
Yeah.
But they aren't simply giving her money for saying the N-word. They are
Which is hilarious when you think about it. If that's
they
the
are
case.
contributing to her fundraiser that is allegedly for starting a new life somewhere else where she won't be doxxed and threatened and harassed.
Okay. All right. Now I have more context. Thank you, David. So what I take away from that is, even if two of those four things were incorrect, or just like out of the four things, like why she's raising this money, even if the two were wrong or a lie out of those four and the other two were right, I totally get why people are donating to her. And I wouldn't personally, because, I don't want to get involved in that kind of stuff. But I think it's people who see the situation. They kind of are like, oh, I see through the BS. I know what this is about. Let me help a brother out, and let me help her out and actually do some good in this world. Because it raised what, $600,000 or $300,000 or something.
I think she's up to like over 700,000.
Dang, man.
Her last I checked, her overall fundraising goal, I think, was $1 million.
Dang, yeah,
because she wants to
Dodge easy.
Yeah, completely relocate and start her life over somewhere.
All right,
is her stated goal.
Yeah, stated goal, alleges, all that kind of stuff. Okay, that's interesting. But what was the deeper thing we were kind of referring to? Like, the people are kind of the people. There are people who see this, that come across this, that are spread like wildfire on social media. and kind of feel like, especially the good people out there, are wanting to give to her, not for the meme and not for the righteous goal, the glorious purpose, as Loki once said on the Marvel show, but the thing of they're tired of being beaten down. And even and for people like her getting kicked to the side and forgotten about. And I think that from what I'm taking away, that's just like what I can tell. And that's all I really have to say about it. But to have that and the Kanye thing kind of happen at a similar time frame is really interesting. And again, this is just a moment in time. Like, people are going to come back and listen to this episode, if they do, and they're going to say, man, this is such a weird situation that they're talking about that is totally irrelevant now that it's 2026, but well, at least it was a thing in time is what I'm saying, basically,
Yeah. Well, who knows what this will lead to?
Who knows what it'll lead to? I just hope people are careful with this kind of thing, because stuff like this, I think it's easy to see through BS stuff and scams, but I could totally see somebody, not this person, this lady, but somebody kind of trying to replicate something like this for their own gain. Kind of like a reverse Jussie Smollett, where they're kind of trying to take advantage of a bad situation and raise money and like do it for their own selfish goals.
Yeah.
And they could get it started by appealing to the people, the good people out there that do want to help others. And so I just, as a cautionary tale, you got to be careful where you put your money and who you give it to, especially if you're financially involved with stuff. I've heard this said multiple times, especially with political commentators and podcasters and Patreon people. Like, you got to be careful, especially if you're financially involved, But it seems like people just want to stick it to the man, in quotes, with this kind of thing, and just be good people to her, from what I gather.
I think
because it sucks that the dude like filmed her through all this, and like her life's going to be ruined. Like, it's on the internet and it's going to spread, and it's a race thing, so of course it's going to spread even more.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like this storm that kind of ruined this woman's life, but now there's a redemptive story to it, and that kind of thing spreads like wildfire as well. But I don't know. I would just say be careful who you give your money to, I guess. But it is fascinating regardless. But back to Kanye and, N-word, NHH, as they say. What's this album called that he's releasing this new single on, David? We haven't even got to that.
Oh, yeah.
This Chaos Agent. What's the other thing happening with this Chaos Agent, Kanye?
Oh, man. So, okay. So originally... What was originally sort of the information that I could find? Okay. What the original plan was going to be was that this was going to be part of an album called World War III, or WW3. I think it was supposed to be stylized as. Okay. And then I guess
that sounds kind of cool, actually.
Around the time, so did you hear about the whole Kanye and his cousin thing?
The streamer guy?
No, the Kanye tweeting about his cousin.
No.
Basically,
David got really excited in his eyes. I could see the excitement in his eyes when I said that.
So before
I'm joking.
Before Heil Hitler dropped.
Yeah. Before. Just this is totally Snarp Fangle out of context. Before Heil Hitler dropped,
Yeah, before that dropped,
okay.
Kanye had sort of a mini controversy already. So he released a song called Cousins.
Okay.
And
I'm scared already.
Which is about which was about him like feeling bad for like his cousin like going to jail for committing some crime, because I guess it connects it to like how they got introduced to porn magazines when they were kids or something, and then Kanye didn't want to look at the porn magazines anymore after a certain point, and then like his cousin went to jail for committing some kind of crime, and the song kind of connects those things, and it's Kanye like feeling guilty about it or something like that. But then he like, instead of just releasing that song, he also full on tweeted like this confession that he apparently him and his cousins replicated what they found in those magazines, and he did some things to his cousin until they were about 14 years old. And so, yeah, he just straight up tweeted that.
Whoa.
Yeah.
I'm morbidly curious what he's saying. But anyway, continue.
So I guess when he decided to just make that confession on Twitter at around the time that he dropped Cousins, the plan changed. And so now, as far as anyone can tell, the upcoming album, which Cousins and Heil Hitler are both singles from, is now going to be called Cuck. And the album art was originally going to be a photo of two Klan members who had just gotten married. So it would, and they like, so it was a photo taken after a Klan wedding, and it was the man and his wife in their robes, and they were like the man was behind and the woman was in front, and he was kind of embracing her, you know. And in front of some hay bales, like those round hay bales that were were stacked up. And I guess that was going to be the album art, but the person who took the photo objected and is like, nah, I don't want you using it. And so now, the album art shifted to an artistic sort of rendition of that scene where it's just the two hooded figures embracing, and then against a background of swirls that's kind of like a vague artistic representation of those round hay bales stacked up in the photo. Yeah, it's very odd. And there's also apparently a song on there called WW3 or World War III as well, which talks about Nazis.
Okay, so I found the tweet you're talking about. Yeah, that's messed up.
Yeah,
Dang.
It's really bad.
Yeah, I feel bad. I feel bad for this dude, man. Like, yeah, he says right here, I changed my album name to, man.
And that's part of the lyrics of Heil Hitler too. There's a line where he talks about no, not about the cousin.
Okay, good.
I'm talking about the album title.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, he there's a line in Heil Hitler where he's says, "I'm a cuck, and I like it when other men, blank my biatch."
Oh man.
Yeah, it's messed up.
Underneath the tweet of the Cousins thing, like the Cousins announcement, and he talks about the details. The first person at the top comment is Nick Fuentes, of course.
Oh my God.
And he says, realest human being on earth.
What the heck?
And then right under that is the Hodge one that just tweeted, damn.
Oh my gosh. Oh, this situation is a gift that keeps on giving.
Dude, the memes on this thread are awesome. It's just Breaking Bad reactions after one and another. Like, oh my gosh. This is another alienation. He's alienating the white supremacists with this post, man.
Yeah, and he's alienating everybody.
Everybody. Nobody's safe. Jews,
Jews,
Mexicans, everybody. Oh my God. So,
oh man,
our dark chaos agent, let him be off in the corner and have fun and do what he wants, I guess. I don't care.
I don't know.
It bothers me that, like,
I'm pretty excited for this album release. Not gonna lie.
No, David, stop it. Okay, look, I love me some dark backstories, right? And there's even some art out there that I think Richard told me about an album that, who was the dude that did it? I'm sorry, Richie. I know you're not listening to this, but I'm sorry anyway. That he mentioned that was like basically a rap song about an obscene sex act that happens. Or at least it's mentioned. But the song's a good song. It's just that's in there, you know. But it reminds, like, the guy rapped about some hardcore stuff. But I look at stuff like that and I'm like, I'm glad art exists and that art exists, but I'm just never going to partake in it. Really? Like, if you make a good beat, sure. But yeah, you know, it's dangerous when, you know, you got stuff like that being said in the song and you listen to it, you know, it's you got to be careful out there. The internet's a crazy place, dude.
Oh yeah.
It's a crazy place, man. Like, it's interesting, you know, like, why hasn't Kanye come out and just said straight up, yo, bro, all rap music was a psyop or something like that? Like, or maybe he has, I don't know, but like, come out and tell us the dirty, dark secrets of Hollywood and the music industry.
I mean,
you know, like, come in and do some good instead of making some random crap chaos stuff.
I mean, he kind of did essentially, but the way he did it was not phrased in a way. The way he went about it is no one's going to listen to him.
Yeah,
because his focus was on the tiny hat people.
Yeah, exactly. Like, it's. There's so many things. He is the person, the pinnacle person, just on Twitter or whatever, that I see time and time again get in his own way, like, and alienate anybody and everybody. And I guess he doesn't care anymore, but it's like, I don't know. It's just a sad story, I think. It's just sad.
Yeah. What's really interesting too is it's funny how some right wingers are like trying to like, defend him. And I mean, like, over this. And when I say defend, I don't mean like, you know, oh, it's free expression, you know, he can do whatever they want. But they're like,
I was gonna say, are you one of them?
No.
I just like the Hell Hitler song, that's all.
I think it's hilarious. But I think I would say that my interpretation of it is pretty grounded in reality, but it's really funny how the discourse that I see about it online is like, you have like left-wingers and people who are really invested in tiny hat politics. I gotta clarify, I don't regularly use the term, the phrase tiny hat people.
What do you mean by that, pal?
I'm just doing it because I think it's funny, because that's what the people who
this episode's never going to be able to be released.
The people who notice things, you know, the people who quote unquote
the noticers,
noticers.
Yeah, you know.
That's one of the phrases that they use.
Oh God,
is tiny hat people. So I thought I'd use it just for funsies.
At least, you know, if you want to, we can even bring in the woke right thing you're talking about, where it's like, at least people like Candace Owens backs it up with facts. The only issue I have is not everything on Wikipedia is true.
Yeah.
And that's my biggest critique about her and people like Ian Carroll, who I love Ian Carroll. But there's some stuff where I'm like, dude, you can't freaking believe everything you read on Wikipedia, bro. Like, I get it. You can go, there's a lot of good stuff they both do. I got it. But like, you can't just, you gotta double check that stuff, man. Like, I won't be the one to do it. Like, I'm not that intellectually like savvy about that kind of thing, but, or willing to put in the work because I have a life to live. But if you're willing to go through all that work, like, really make sure it's more than just Wikipedia stuff. like actually look some stuff up. I do think it's interesting though, because I was listening on Candace's, one of her last shows, and she talked about Sigmund Freud and the creation of psychology and all that stuff. Turns out the reason, wait. Nope, I'm already losing it. Nope, that's fine. Just listen to the one her and Ian Carroll did. It was really interesting. Apparently he's going to do her show for the next couple weeks because she's on maternity leave. So that's all. That's all I got to say about that.
But about people like Candace Owens and other so-called woke right people is their conclusions I don't think are correct, but there's a reason why they often call themselves noticers.
Well, there's a thing about it's truth seeking.
Because they are talking about things that should be pointed out and should be dealt with. And the problem is while their conclusions that they draw about the things that they're noticing aren't necessarily correct, in my opinion, no one's really coming at it.
They're not coming at it from a nuanced perspective.
Yeah, no one's really coming at it from a nuanced perspective.
There's no nuanced backing or a counterpoint to their points they're making.
What's happening is all the criticism that they're receiving is just shut it down. Yeah, it's anti-Semitism. Shut it down. And all that does is validate them. They're like, we were right all along.
We're right. We're getting opposition. That means we're correct.
And so it just drives them further to the extremes.
Yeah.
So in essence, all this reaction to these people noticing these things is actually creating more anti-Semitism, because instead of dealing with the issues in a nuanced way, they're just like, oh, you're saying things against the tiny hat people. We can't have that. And they mean well, but they come off as like, they're in on the conspiracy or something,
Yeah, it's that's my biggest issue, I think, with all this is we don't have enough folks. And I find it really frustrating too, because even people on Timcast won't even really deep dive into this, at least from what I've seen. I don't watch all their stuff, but like people aren't willing to counteract Candace or Ian in a nuanced way like this, because again, I'm all for seeking out the truth and exposing the corruption and who knows, maybe look, here's the thing. Israel's not innocent, neither is the US. There's a bunch of dark, corrupt stuff in the history of both of these countries, as well as the corrupt stuff that's happening today, So like, I'm frustrated because I love Ian Carroll, especially. Like, his stuff is really fascinating. But as I'm watching like a 10-minute video on X, sometimes I'm like, is this? And he shows it, like the words and what he found in the video. But I'm like, is there something that's not, is that all I'm supposed to be finding here? Like, is there more to the story? Like, a lot of it's from Wikipedia, which makes me concerned. I'm like, there's been a couple things I've seen on Wikipedia, which tells me it's edited by some people that might have been, let's say, in on the intelligence apparatus, we'll say. And I don't know if they're doing it to troll, doing it to sabotage, or doing it for what. I don't know the reason, but there's way too many questions I am left with when I watch their videos versus answers, we'll say. So, and I still like and enjoy watching their stuff, but I can only take so much, I think, sometimes. But
yeah.
And then when you actually listen to these people talk, they're not bad people. Like, they're just very opinionated. And it seems like, especially, dude, have you seen any of the stuff Candace has talked about with Macron and his wife?
No.
Oh, bro, you, that's a rabbit hole that's worth going down, because, and she's brought interviews and all this kind of stuff. And it's like really fascinating about, like, basically the theory is the French president, the president of France, his wife, who's much, much older than him, kind of looks like a dude, is actually a dude.
Oh,
that's the theory.
I've heard about this conspiracy.
And she's talked about it, and I'm like, it's like a multi-episode thing. I watched a couple and I'm like, this is really fascinating. And it's totally believable. I'm like, dude, yeah, that's 100% a dude.
That's
It's
funny.
100% a guy. Why is he married with 30 plus, got a person who's 30 years older than him, who's got hands the size of mine, who's supposed to be this quaint, beautiful woman back in the day when he was in high school. Also, he started the relationship with her in high school, which is even weirder.
And she's 30 years older than him?
Yes.
That's
It's so messed up.
that's concerning.
It's very French of them. No, I'm joking. Anyway, but dude, that's a rabbit hole. If you're gonna go into a rabbit hole anywhere, that's the one, because it's got all the tea, it's got all the drama, and it's fun. It's a fun one, I'll say. So, but stuff like the Harvey Weinstein stuff, I haven't dived too deep in. And the stuff with I don't know what else she does, but a lot of the conspiracy stuff she talks about is very interesting. But I don't know if I believe 100% of it all. And I think that's how you should take everything with the internet in general. You shouldn't believe all of it.
Oh yeah, definitely. Take the internet with a grain of salt.
Yeah. And Ian Carroll, the woke right, he's done a really good job of educating people on where all these companies come from and where all these brands are, in these stores and everything. Like he's done some good work on that and really exposed a lot of like, hey, like this whole aisle in Walmart is owned by like one company. And it's all different like bath products or whatever, or perfumes. There's only like 2 or 3 companies that in this aisle, and majority of it, one owns the majority of it all. So it's like, it's good to know about these things because it also makes you educated.
Mm-hmm.
But some of the stuff about the, little hat people with little hats, as you say, it's like, I don't know if I believe all that. So, makes you question though.
Yeah.
But that's also the danger of not polarization, David. What's the word I'm looking for? It's the danger of radicalization is maybe the word I'm looking for. It's getting so obsessed with one thing that you, regardless of the opposition those people face, you will believe them until the end.
Yeah.
And it's just kind of, I've been guilty of that. Where I'm like, no, nobody can touch Ben Shapiro. He's right about everything. Louder Crowder, he's right about everything. And then like there's these things that you learn about these people. You're like, well, they may not be the most perfect people, just so you know. And you kind of should look at them with more nuance.
Speaking of tiny hat people.
Yeah, well, speaking of Candace and Ben, like that whole thing was kind of weird. Like, did you follow any of that in the split from Daily Wire?
Not very closely.
It's basically a fighting match. Like,
yeah. I got the gist that it was not an amicable split.
No, it's like, yeah. But I don't know. I think there's a lot of truth out there, but you always got, what I've learned is you got to look at it from a nuanced perspective and pick a side, like figure out what you believe in and, don't go in the middle too hard, as Thad would tell us on some of the pods.
Well, I don't know if you have to pick a side.
No, I'm talking like pick something to believe in is what I'm saying. Like,
so you mean take a stand?
Take a stand. Like, yeah. Don't be wishy-washy. I'm on the fence. I'm a white toast French toast eating. I don't know how Tim Pool says it, but white toast, milk toast fence sitter. Don't be a milk toast fence sitter. Like, actually take a stand and choose what you want to believe in. Whether it's in Kanye and the truth that he spells out on Twitter, or maybe Hitler did live after World War II and lived in Argentina for 20 plus years with 2 children. Who knows?
Oh, one random thing.
Yeah.
As I was looking up information on the,
we're so canceled.
on the
I'm going to listen back to this and be like, man, Jake, this isn't even that bad.
Yeah.
This isn't Nick Fuentes.
As I was looking up more information on the song and the album, I think I was looking on the Kanye West wiki, which there is one.
Right.
For like information on the song and the album and stuff. And I think it was on the song page itself. There was a comments section and only one person commented, and it was bro sampled Adolf Hitler. I'm done. Because for those who aren't in the know
or haven't heard the song,
yeah, for who haven't heard the song, there's literally a recording of part of a speech given by Adolf Hitler at the end of the song.
Dude, it's a South Park episode. It's legit a South Park episode. Like, if I was making fun of Kanye like 3 years ago, that's what I would write. Like, and like the Freedom Tunes dude on YouTube. Dude, like dude, that's what I would go with. And it's a reality.
That's the funny thing is the last time South Park made fun of Kanye West, like it actually, their parody of him turned out to be true because the whole gist of that particular episode that I'm talking about was they wrote a joke about how you're a gay fish if you like fish sticks, and the whole and the joke like blew up really big, but nobody knew that it was the South Park kids who had written it. And
in the show.
Okay. And Kanye West was really offended by the joke because he didn't get it. And so there's this whole subplot of Kanye West like murdering Carlos Mencia and other things to try and get to the bottom of who wrote the joke so he can take care of him once and for all.
Oh, whoa. And
because he just doesn't get the joke and he's reacting violently to it because I'm not a gay fish, you know, and then by the end of the episode, he still doesn't get the joke, but he comes to a realization that he just has to accept the truth about himself, that he's a gay fish, and he's just going to live as a gay fish.
Oh,
and then in real life, Kanye West didn't get the joke and was upset that they were making fun of him because he didn't get the joke.
Whoa.
It's like... So it's like he bypassed him. He didn't even wait for them to write an episode about him, and he just went and did it himself. He just went and did it himself.
I think that's a good note to end on.
Yeah.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, thank you again for listening to yet another episode of the Snarp Fangle Podcast. Thank you for listening all the way through, if you have, and enjoying the great journey of the Snarp Fangle universe. Would you kindly subscribe, follow, and all that good stuff, and we'll heil something on the Snarp Fangle on. All right. See you guys later. Take care.
Bye-bye now.